Our meeting started at 6:06. My name is Eugene Peterson. I'm the chair of the Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission. This is our regularly scheduled monthly meeting, September 19th.
Recording in progress.
The commission is part of the Anne Arundel County Charter that was done voted by the citizens of Anne Arundel County in 2020. Previously to that, we were appointed by the county executive, but we're a statutory commission now. Initially, we had responsibility simply for looking at, and it's not simply, I don't want to detract from what our responsibility is, but we had responsibility for addressing alleged complaints of housing discrimination. Through the actions of the county council and the executive, we've been given expanded responsibilities, which include looking at alleged cases or instances of when they're brought to our attention of discrimination in the public sector in terms of public facilities, like restaurants and the like. And we also have responsibility for addressing complaints of alleged employment discrimination, although we are exempt from looking at county employee complaints. Those will still be addressed by the county. At this point in time, I'd like to do our roll call, and I'll start by calling out your name, and if when you hear your name, please say present or here. Commissioner Newman.
This is Commissioner Didoni. Commissioner Newman is on mute, but Commissioner Renee Newman is present.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Didoni.
Thank you. I'm present. Thank you, Commissioner.
That's fine. Okay, good. I have both of you. Commissioner Ferris.
Present.
Commissioner Haliba.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Gaskin.
Present.
Okay. And Commissioner Michaels.
Present.
And I'm here. So we have a quorum. I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda, which is in your chat. I apologize. I thought I had sent them out to you, but for some reason I had a computer malfunction, or a human malfunction, maybe would be more exact. So you never got them today. But in the chat, we have both the corrected minutes from May by Commissioner Ferris and the August meeting minutes. Could you take a moment to review them? We'll take a little time to review them, go into the chat and take a look at them. And then I'll entertain a motion to accept both the corrected, we've already voted on the corrected minutes, but they're there for your review. We voted on them last meeting, but to vote on the August 15th meeting minutes with any technical corrections that may be deemed appropriate and necessary.
You may, Chairman Peterson, you may have posted those links to the chat prior to my joining, which would explain why I can't see them in the chat. I think in general, one can, thank you.
Okay. You have them now?
Yes, and thank you.
Appreciate it.
Move to approve.
Pardon?
Move to approve.
Move to approve. The Commissioner Ferris has moved to approve both the, we've approved the corrected minutes. That's for your review, but for the August 15th meeting minutes. Is there a second with?
Commissioner Udemy seconds the motion to approve the August minutes pending any technical corrections.
Thank you, Commissioner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oppose? Okay. Hearing none. I'll now go to the next agenda item. I want to give you an update on my meeting with House Delegate and Vice Chair of the Judiciary Committee in the Maryland House of Delegates, Delegate Sandy Bartlett. Good neighbor and friend of mine. Delegate Bartlett and I met on September 5th. And as all of you are aware, we talked about the wiretapping electronic surveillance legislation, which we had supported, and I sent you all out the emails and other information that I had sent out in the last session. And I also checked with, as y'all asked me to, with Director Smith, who said that those are okay and appropriate things for me as the chair of the commission and commissioners to do in liaison with other groups that they may want to interact with, since we've taken a position in the last legislative session in favor of this particular kind of change to the two-party consent of our wiretapping electronic surveillance statute. This would be, as Director Smith said, a carve out. So I began discussing our way forward with Delegate Bartlett. I asked Delegate Bartlett if she would herself agree to co-sponsor or sponsor the legislation in the House. She's been in contact with the Senate sponsor of the legislation, Senator Charles Sidnor from Baltimore County. And it's her belief that he will again be putting his legislative package or a similar package forward for review in the Senate. When I talked with Delegate Bartlett about her co-sponsoring this, she pointed out to me that there had been a House, I believe at least one House sponsor of this legislation. And the way that the body works is she would have to check with that past sponsor to make sure that that individual was on board, and if that individual wanted to sponsor it again, it might be better for that individual to be the sponsor. She also pointed out to me that if she does not take an affirmative position, like being the sponsor of the legislation or a co-sponsor, it's sometimes better for her when it comes to the committee to be able to speak about it and not be seen as trying to unduly, I guess I could use that term, but influence the committee, and it gives her an ability to present an even-handed posture, which she has. The issue is further involved in other potential carve-outs. The individual carve-out being not many carve-outs, but another important carve-out would be one for domestic violence. In other words, being able to have one party consent to tape a conversation with someone who had either perpetrated domestic violence or had information about someone that had done that to the individual who was making the call or someone else. That is of great interest to some of the members of the Judiciary Committee. It's also of great interest to others in the House of Delegates. And so Delegate Bartlett suggested that a move we might entertain would be, once I get the three, there were three proposed pieces of legislation, and I'll talk about them in a minute, but I'd like to begin by saying that she suggested that it might behoove us to support a carve out for domestic violence a domestic violence carve out for an alleged instance of domestic violence as a ability to have a one party consent to tape conversations. The three carve outs, and I looked this up, I believe, are one attempt they had in the House of Delegates was to take a person who taped one party consent and move their action from a felony to a misdemeanor. And of course, then that could be adjudicated after it was found that in favor of the person who was charged with the misdemeanor once the domestic violence incident either went to trial or was going to trial. The second a piece of legislation was the actual carve out for domestic violence, and I believe the third one again had something to do with that. I see Commissioner Daydoni, he has her hand up, so I'll stop now and take your question.
This is a question for clarification, Chairman Peterson. In the proposed domestic violence carve out, let us presume a situation such as the following. Let us assume I was in a contentious divorce proceeding with a spouse who I believe to be abusive, and who reflected that abusive nature in both threats and verbal intimidation on phone calls, yet never manifested that in public. Would I be allowed to, as a single party consenting person, tape his conversations with me, or is that outside the purview of that?
No, that would be within the purview.
Thank you very much.
is my understanding, but I'll basically review that with Delegate Bartlett, but it's my understanding that that would be.
Then I would like to propose the following for our consideration and raise it to a motion if it becomes appropriate.
Okay.
We now know of at least 2 cases of carve-outs from the no recording law that I believe would be of great interest to other civil rights organizations. And I therefore propose that we get this possible legislation in front of those organizations as soon as possible. I'm thinking specifically of the statewide caucus of African American leaders, and you know how to approach them. I'm also thinking of the statewide Maryland State Conference NAACP Political Action Committee. Those of us who follow the newspaper know that that is in turmoil right now. Nonetheless, we can raise it to the attentions of persons who will be able to get it at the state level as soon as they are able to engage again.
Yes, that makes sense. The soonest that I think that could happen would be November, because I will explain why. Delegate Bartlett and I talked about some actions and activities she would have to do, and I'll get into some of those, what they are. But she said it would make sense to reconvene, she and I, in November and see where we were. So as soon as it becomes 2 things, as soon as it becomes sure that there will be legislation developed for domestic carve out, I could certainly get a sense of what that legislation would look like. And along with the wiretapping and electronic surveillance piece for housing folks who engage in testing and in testing for housing discrimination. So as soon as I had that information, I'd be happy to share it with you and all the commissioners, and then we could move forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As I said, and Commissioner Daydoni and I talked about this in part. Delegate Bartlett was somewhat surprised at some of the senators who voted no on this, on moving the legislation forward. One of them was, that comes to mind, is a senator that used to be part of my legislative district, but is no longer. And that particular senator, who's very well known in the community, voted no. So she wanted to go back to Senator Rosapep and the other individuals she identified to me, and find out what their questions or problems were with the legislation. Because the way that the legislation works in both chambers is, if a piece of legislation, say, is passed, as the Senator Sidnor's bill was, in the Senate and moves to the House, if there are significant members of the Democratic caucus, which basically has override capability in both chambers, if people see a significant member of, let's say, the Senate again voting no, that pretty much is a signal to both the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate that probably this measure should not come up for consideration. So we have to work out, and Senator Delegate Bartlett has to touch bases with all the players, and then get back to me with an assessment of where we are. Another, I don't know if we call it compounding, but another factor that's involved in getting a carve out for our interest in housing, fair housing testing, and also with domestic violence is there's some discussion that goes on. Well, if you're going to give a carve out for this and you're going to give a carve out for that, why don't we simply change the statute and no longer have two-party consent? That's a question that may come up, and that would be problematic, I believe, in terms of maybe getting anything done. So Delegate Bartlett and I had a very productive meeting. She thanked me for my input and suggestions, and I thanked her for hers. And we'll move forward, and I will have hopefully more information for all of you. I'll give her the date of our November meeting and see if she can't get back to me with a report of where we are for our November meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, just want to make sure that everybody knew where we were on this legislation, which we have supported, which the county executive supported, and hopefully we will also be able. And I've talked with Director Smith about this to see if the county executive might not also be interested in helping us with being in support of some form of domestic violence one-party consent legislation. At this point, I'd like to welcome Captain Elizabeth Smith from the Anne Arundel County Police Department, who is here to give us a presentation. Some of these items may have been covered before, but since we had a number of new commissioners, I thought it would be useful, especially with the data that we received recently, which I forwarded to all of you, with a discussion, a presentation on hate bias data and available reports that we have. So without further ado, Captain Smith.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very, very much for inviting me and having me on here to talk to you all. If at any time anybody has any questions or anything like that, just interrupt me. I won't see the hand raised things, so feel free to ask any questions at any time. I'm not a PowerPoint person, so I don't have to share my screen. I'm not that person, but so I'm going to talk a little bit about hate bias incidents at the state versus at the county level, and what reporting requirements are, and why you might see a little bit different numbers right now as you would normally see. So for us, we define a hate bias incident in Anne Arundel County as a reported act which appears to be motivated, perceived by the victim to be motivated, all or in part, by a hate bias against a protected class or characteristic. And so for it to be considered a hate bias incident, the act is not required to be a crime under any of the federal, state, or local statutes. So what does this mean in the grand scheme of things? Racial slurs are hate bias incidents, but they're not crimes, unfortunately. So when we report up to the state, we report the things that the state and the FBI require, which are the crimes, any assaults that have occurred, any destruction of property, anything that has an actual crime associated with it and appears to be motivated by that hate or bias towards that protected class. So Deputy Chief Goodwin had supplied you with a list of hate bias incidents. What those are the ones that we report to the state that have crimes involved in them. So there were, I believe, 8 or 9 of them: vandalism, verbal intimidation, assault, and vandalism again. those were the only ones that had crimes attached to them. So when I say that, that's a hate bias crime. When I talk about a hate bias incident, that's going to be all of them to include the racial slurs and things that aren't crimes. So when you look at those numbers for the year are at approximately 100, which is on par with what we had for last year. Slightly lower, actually. Not by much, and I want to hold off on that until the end of the year to see if there actually is a decrease in it. But for right now, we are on par with it. And one question was brought up also, that it didn't appear that any of these 8 or 10 that were supplied to you occurred in schools. That's because they didn't have a crime associated with them. So there were incidents, just not something that we can actually call a crime. So we still take, Anne Arundel County goes above and beyond, and we still take those reports and we still capture that data in hopes that we can find ways to reduce it in some way. I do know, since this list has been given out to you, because I control the schools, or not control them, but the SROs fall under me, I can tell you that there was one hate bias incident with graffiti at one of the middle schools, Old Middle North, I believe. That can be added to the list as well because it was a destruction. Any questions so far?
I have a question. This is Commissioner Michaels.
Hi.
Hi, Captain. We just helped at our organization a woman who is actually moving from her apartment with her children to another apartment because of bullying or hate bias. We don't do the casework, but I never thought about communicating back through the organization that is doing the casework to say, have you contacted the county or the city that they live in department? Does every police department, city police department in the county have been trained to either bring it to your attention or to handle it on their own?
So everyone in Anne Arundel County, anytime an incident comes up, whether it's a crime, whether it's classified as a crime or not, if it's classified as slurs, we go and we are mandated to take a report in Anne Arundel County. I don't believe it's like that throughout the entire state. And again, though we do not report on all of those to the state level. I can't speak for Annapolis, but I believe they're almost similar to us, as well as Crofton. And those are the sheriff's department doesn't really take hate bias complaints. That's the police department. So I'm pretty sure almost everybody does. Yes, if that was your.
Okay. The only reason I was again asking was we just try to be like, if there's a legal issue, then we have a community legal service area that we can send them to. If they have a food crisis, we have a place to send them. We always, we just refer, and then we help how we can help monetarily. But in the case of this, I just realized today that we just approved the collaboration with the other organization to help this person move. So, and it was because of this reason. So,
Did that person already report it to the police?
And that we don't know, but I would like to at least be able to say to the organization that's doing the work that, are they aware?
Are you
maybe
or the police, so we can track this kind of thing? And the police may have, like, when we go to a scene, the victim may not realize maybe a crime did occur. And if that's the case, then, there might be a little bit more we can do about that. There's nothing contacting us. And I would always recommend that if you have any questions at all, that the police be contacted 100%.
Well, at least, and like I said, refer back through, because we we don't get the complete picture. We get a summarization asking for the need. But just being able to have this, and of course, I knew that our commission deals in this area, but sometimes when you're in the middle of helping for a reason like for housing, you're not thinking of all the levers, you know what I'm saying, to reach. So thank you.
Oh, no problem at all.
Captain Smith, in the past, we were able to get, you mentioned that you sent us the ones that were found to be specific crimes, but in the past, we got both the statutory complaints that you would refer to the state, plus the additional information on hate bias incidents.
That can definitely be provided. I think Captain Ashburn gave kind of the rough, earlier this year, he gave you the statistics for last year. Is that correct?
I believe so.
How often did you all get them before? And I will make sure that I will continue that.
I'm trying to remember. I think maybe quarterly or however it works so that it fits into how you collect your data, so that we're not putting an undue burden on the department. That's what we'd like to do.
Okay. So right now in collecting all the data together, our analysts do that. The only issue with that is that we are very short on analysts. And so it requires one person going in and extracting that data. We don't have anything that automatically does that. But given a little bit of time, it's something that should not be unheard of quarterly. I can probably get you the first half of the year.
Okay. That would be very helpful.
Okay.
Because one of the statutory requirements that the commission has is to do a report. And so it would be useful for the county executive and the county council to see where these incidents are occurring. And in the past, one of the things that was very helpful for us is you all did a color-coded map, and it showed us exactly if it happened to be in the Annapolis area, or if it happened to be in the Glen Burnie area, if it happened to be in the Chesapeake area, we would see the number of incidents that occurred. And that, I think, is meaningful to both the county executive and county council members. So my report has to be done in October. So I would hope, and if not, that's fine for this year. But
I'll get it to you.
I would hope that I'd be able to get that information and the color-coded map so that I could put it in the report and show that information with the caveat to both the county executive, county council, that basically there's a difference between a statutory crime and the incidents that the county collects.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And not only that, and I just got a question. I'll drop my email in the chat too. So if anybody needs to contact me about other things as well, please don't hesitate at all to contact me.
Right. And the commissioners should know that we have a link to the hate bias reporting system in the police department in the county, and it's on our website. So any commissioners that have any questions can avail themselves of that. Commissioner Daydoni.
I want to call to our attention a reminder that unless there is a requirement to report, any data we collect is going to be biased. Data, by the way, is in Latin, a plural word, so the data are biased. And the only places I know that there is a reporting requirement is within Anne Arundel County Public Schools. And Commissioner Ferris would be able to confirm that if an incident occurs, it's required that it be reported within the school system. I'm not sure that it's required that it then be conveyed to the police department. In fact, I know it's not required to be conveyed to the police department. unless it arises to the level of a reportable crime. So there's a filter to start with, which means incidents unreported. I am very sensitive to this because a friend of mine was, I think the word is assaulted, but I'm not sure. It's not as violent as the word initially sounds. She was at a community food pantry. She had commented on the placement of one of the Board of Education candidates' billboards, and another participant at that charitable event grabbed her by the wrists and said, "Quit talking politics."
That's-
I had, this was this was an inflamed person who was distressed, both my friend after the fact and the person who encountered her, in a surrounding of people who wanted to do what was right, and out of deep regard for everyone involved, especially the charity hosting this, the decision was made not to in any way report this. This is a reporting bias. There's a lot more going on. When I sit with the Caucus of African American Leaders, their convener, Carl Snowden, reminds us every morning, Monday morning, watch out for November 6th. Something's going to, don't just assume it's going to be okay. I guess I'm echoing that. There's more happening out here than these reports are showing. People are more distressed than it's showing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for the comments. And again, the only thing I can do is urge people that if there is a hate bias incident, that they need to report it to us, whether there's a crime or not. It's the only way that we will be able to track it in the county. And, I think we do a great job of tracking it when it comes to our attention because we have mandates of our own. But yes, we can only do when it is reported to us.
It comes to my memory that in the past, when we worked with the police department and the school district, even when there were incidents that didn't rise to being a crime, I believe if there was any or any involvement with an SRO, it wasn't siloed into the school district. The police department got the incident report along with the school district. Is that still the case, Captain?
So if the SRO is a party to something and it's hate bias related, it's going to be written.
Okay.
It's going to be written on a police report 100%.
I guess because we didn't see any incidents, and I share Commissioner Dadoni's concern. Could you check and see with the school district and see if
So
have been incidents that haven't risen to the level of a crime that they're working on? Because I think the past reports had talked about how the school district internally would then address it and dispose of it. But you're
well,
not.
I don't know if I'm going to be privy to that, but I will tell you this. I did review, I got today a list of, I apologize in advance. I do have the incidents. I just got it today, the ones that are all incidents to include the reportable crimes and then the ones that aren't crimes. There are school incidents. So they are being reported to us.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But again, they're not that take it to that mandatory reporting level. It's just something we do as Anne Arundel County.
Right.
So yeah, they're being reported. And I guess the good news is that there's very little of what we're going to call crime.
Right. But I think that it's useful for us as a commission to get the incidents that are happening in the schools so we can see, for instance, is there, let me give an example, is there a particular middle school or high school or even an elementary school where there's a preponderance of this kind of activity going on, which would then trigger us maybe to talk with the school district about any support we could offer to help make the situation in the community more inclusive, um, and less destructive.
If you give me a few days, I'll be able to share that data that you got before and a map as well.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We understand that y'all are working through the change in personnel and whatnot. So I just thought that it would be useful to have this discussion so that we could put some items out there that we believe are helpful to us and to the larger community. Again, we don't share this data as commissioners with others because that's something that we agreed with your department earlier. But it's good for us internally, and it helps us understand what's going on in terms of the temperature, let's say, quote unquote, of hate and bias in the county.
Absolutely.
Great.
I hope I everybody's questions. I know, or I'm still here. So if anybody has any more.
Right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I haven't heard any. Captain, I want to thank you for coming to be part of our meeting. This has been a very useful discussion. I look forward to getting the information that I can share with the other commissioners, and look forward to getting some of the items that I described that I can then put in our report that will go to the county executive and the county council in October.
Absolutely. I'm before I pop off, I'm just going to go into the chat and email everybody or give everybody my contact info too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to me, Drona, and I hope it wasn't too bad.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point in time, we're going to have a report from Director Smith and Dr. Nicholas Smith-Kia on a grant that the county recently won or received, a hate crime prevention grant, and what that means for actions that the commission might think about taking to take advantage of the grant and some more and support the efforts of the directorate. Director Smith and Dr. Nicola Smith-Kia.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's good to see you all. I'm dropping a link in the chat. So as Chairman Peterson was saying, many of you might have seen a press release in the last 2 weeks about Anne Arundel County's receipt of the Shepherd Bird Hate Crime Prevention Grant. And so we were awarded $1.2 million by the Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance Programs. The purpose of this money is to work on hate crime prevention, hate crime prosecution, and victim support services. The link that I just put in the chat is a link to the summary of our proposal. So obviously we submitted a grant proposal and this is what was approved. There are many components to it, but in general, what we intend to do is to coordinate our law enforcement strategy for dealing with hate crime reporting, prevention, all of the things to make sure that the Crofton Police Department, the Anne Arundel County Police Department, the Annapolis Police Department, and the Community College Police, that they're all on the same page, that they have access to cutting edge information, the most current research, and so that we're all kind of aligned to make sure that within geographical borders of Anne Arundel County, all of our law enforcement agencies are doing the same thing. In addition to that, a part of the grant is focused heavily on community outreach. We know that there are communities that underreport hate bias incidents and crimes, and so they're not reflected in the numbers. We suspect, just based on anecdotal data and sort of national trends, that our communities where we have a lot of persons with limited English proficiency are underreporting. We know that people who feel particularly vulnerable, who feel like they might get into some kind of trouble, or they might be revealing themselves in some way and they don't want to, we know that those folks tend to underreport. And so part of this initiative is to encourage people to report, to kind of bring these hate bias incidents out of the shadows so that people feel comfortable reporting, so that the police know what's going on, so that we know what's going on, and also so that we all know what the state looks for when they prosecute these crimes, right? What are the criteria? What's the difference between an incident and a crime? We want to make sure that everyone's educated about that. Finally, we're looking at enhancing victim support services as part of this grant. And so the press release that went out a couple weeks ago was about the fact that we hired Dr. Nicholas Smith-Key to be our senior project manager for the grant. As many of you know, our office was small but mighty, doing a lot of things. We applied, we got the money, but the day-to-day, we've been staffing up. And this project is it's a 4-year grant, it's a 4-year project. We think it's going to make a big difference in the county, but we need somebody who is skilled, that can do the day-to-day work of managing the grant and doing our, coordinating our programming and our activities. And so Dr. Nikki is that person. Having said that, I'm going to allow Dr. Nikki now to introduce herself to you and tell you a little bit about her background.
Thank you, Director Smith. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Glad to meet you all and looking forward to talking with you all more in the future. So I came to this position from a previous 3-year contract with the Philadelphia Police Department, where I was embedded in the executive team and I was brought in to implement a bunch of reform efforts, from implementing an early intervention system to looking at neighborhood policing initiatives, procedurally just framework for youth engagement, and a number of other initiatives. A lot of my work in the past 10 to 12 years has been at the intersection of mental health, substance use disorder, and homelessness. And I say it's a blessing. I've been blessed to work with upwards of 100 police departments around the country, from LAPD to NYPD to small departments in California to sheriff's departments, and also have some connections at the federal level with federal law enforcement membership associations and other policy shops. So I bring a wealth of information, of expertise, of knowledge within the policing space, but I also I'm really keen on community engagement and ensuring that the communities are part of the solution as well. For this project, I'm really interested and excited, to really look at the different ways that we can engage the community, engage the different partners. I just started a month ago, so I'm doing a lot of digging into the knowledge, the information in the grant narrative, meeting with some partners. After this meeting, I'll reach out to some of you to talk one-on-one to better understand how we can partner with just what you're tasked to do. You will be one of our primary partners for this project as well. I will stop there unless anyone has any particular questions they want to ask. But again, excited to be here and looking forward to speaking with you all in the future and working with you all.
And I just wanted to add that, we did, in putting together this narrative, I hope that you guys will take the time to, read the information about the project on that website. But we did envision the commission as a huge partner. The commission has hosted hate bias forums. You've hosted a number of community events, right? We did the CRT forum. This commission has been effective at getting people together on topics that are challenging in communities. And so, you know, I think in line with the training that you guys are going to be doing at the end of the month about facilitating community conflict, I think this is just another layer of the way, you know, of how the community can be engaged and how the commission can play a strategic role in that engagement.
Commissioner Michaels?
I just wanted to first just wanted to welcome Dr. Smith Key to our region, and thank you for bringing your expertise. And yes, I'm so interested in talking with you and learning more about how we can help our community. But I also want to just make huge congratulations to Commissioner Director Smith, because, oh my goodness gracious, how wonderful to be able to get awarded this grant. I mean, I remember reading it and I was just feeling so proud of you and everything you've been doing for this. And I love that you are doing these programs, you know, and breaking out the subject matter so that we all can learn more about it. So just huge congratulations to you and your team. And yeah, I really love it. And I just want to learn more, because when Dr. Smith Key said the intersection of mental health, drug addiction, homelessness, like all these things that come across you know, our organization's desk at one point or the other, where we're collaborating, and Director Smith understands this so totally, with the benevolence organization, the homeless coalition, the housing, you know, there's just all these, and we're all trying to solve these problems, but bringing it together sort of under a roof like this helps to, you know, all of us to be floating and sailing in the same direction. Wanted to make sure I said something. Thank you.
And sorry, if I may, I should have mentioned, I am from South County. I live in Columbia Beach. Philadelphia asked me to come in on a remote basis for 3 years, but I am from here and really happy to give back to my community.
That's so wonderful to hear. Director Smith, could I ask one more question? Is it a $1.2 million grant per year for 4 years, or 1.2 million? So every year you give the data and statistics, and then, you know, every year it's broken into quarters.
So it's actually $1.2 million over the course of 4 years.
4 years. Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for your kind words about this. This is really a victory for the county. And I think it allows us all to really play a role in the future of this place where we live, and that we care about. So thank you.
Couldn't agree more. Yep.
Before we leave this item, Dr. Nicola, what have you thought of? What are some of the roles, because I've been thinking about this, that the commission might play in championing support for this grant and helping get information out about the grant and interacting with some of the harder to reach populations that the grant wants to reach?
So I'm working through that now with Asha, but I think I've put it in 3 big buckets. One, we need to educate, engage, and empower both communities and practitioners. We need to build collaboration and build consensus. And the other part is enhancing tactics and technology, specific to the police departments, to the public safety agencies. And I think in large part, I think the commission would be very helpful in helping us around engagement, education, and empowering communities, and also to build consensus and to help us to collaborate with different partners across the communities, across the county. I have to go into, and I will be on the ground. We'll be hosting, hopefully, town hall meetings, possibly focus group meetings. So I think you all will play a huge role in helping us with this engagement, in helping me to find the gatekeepers to vulnerable communities, to immigrant communities. That would be very helpful.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from commissioners? Yeah, see Commissioner Hatcher is with us. Good to see you.
Good evening. I couldn't find my hands to place up, but I want to say I've missed you all. I'm happy to be back. One of the things that I'm excited about this grant and hate bias and getting out and doing community outreach. When I first started with the commission, one of the big things that I noticed that the commission did was the CRT discussion. And so I'm hoping that we can host or facilitate another discussion regarding hate and bias in the communities, because I think people really have something to say. And with that forum, having people be able to, in a safe place, speak their thoughts and opinions and have that discussion was so powerful, was impactful as well. So I'm hoping that can be something we can also do as we move forward with hate bias prevention. But welcome. I look forward to working with you and seeing how we can really be impactful into the community.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your comments. At this point in time, I'd like to move to our next, unless there's any other questions, comments, concerns. Hearing none, I'd like to move to the next item on our agenda, which is the September DOJ training. Director Smith,
Yes.
can you go ahead and provide us some information?
Sure. So a number signed up for the facilitating meetings around community conflict training from the Department of Justice, which is a 2-day training. It's 4 hours on the 28th, 4 hours on the 29th. And so we have sent, I believe Chanel sent something out to you guys that just has the location, which is the Independence Room in the Heritage Complex, which is a great place because 1, it's accessible, 2, it's accessible from outside. You don't have to go into like the lobby of the building. And so we look forward to that event. I think it's going to be very insightful for you all. It will really empower you to be able to take on issues like, when we get these calls and people say there's an issue between, whether it's neighbors, communities, blocks, on certain streets, whatever it is, it will enable you to play an active role in helping to resolve conflicts within the larger community. And I think that's just a nice skill as a commission for you to be able to have. The materials have already been delivered to us, so you'll get those. The only thing I know that was outstanding, and I think Chanel has been on top of this, is that meals will be provided for both sessions. And I think Chanel has set up a process whereby you should notify her of what you'd like to eat so that she can order it. Yes, Lakeisha.
So I wasn't able, or I didn't sign up because I will be out of town and actually coming back on the 28th. Is there a possibility that I could attend the 29th session, or do I need to do both in order to like get the full experience?
I think it's one where you need to do both because they offer it as a 1-day 8-hour training, But our facilitator was really kind and said, listen, it's long, right? To sit for 8 hours working on something like that, it's long and it can be a little tiring. She said it's better. She finds that people receive the material better when you break it up into 2 sessions. That said, I don't have any problem asking their thoughts on this. So if they say that, you know, it would be okay and it's not an issue, I'm happy to let you know. So if you want to go,
Thank you.
yeah. So I'll just reach out to them and see.
I appreciate
Any other comments, questions? Director Smith, is this training, we have to have mediation, we have to have at least one commissioner who has had mediation training. Would this qualify as mediation training?
I think once we see the material, we can make a decision about that. I know typically when they say mediation training, they mean the 40-hour mediation course. And you know, I have that certification, so I'm able to use that for you guys. But I actually think that this is going to be much more targeted to the types of conflicts that you might be asked to weigh in on. And so I can't imagine that if the DOJ is providing it, that it wouldn't empower you to do certain types of mediation, right? So I think let's see what the curriculum looks like and how they recommend using it. And then we'll see if it counts. Yeah.
Okay, great, because that would help us with our increased responsibilities. It would help us be able to provide kind of service which is necessary and not unduly burden you every time we have to have a mediation. I think I'm trying to remember if we have a commissioner who has had the 40-hour course. I'm not sure, but that would be helpful to know, and would be helpful for you to know. So anybody that's had that kind of training, please let Director Smith know, so at least we can put that in our we've got that done bucket and then move on. And I believe that we can look at the training and see if that would help us have additional commissioners qualified for mediation. Again, so that it does not provide an undue burden on Director Smith. And we might look at our statute, because I think we're required to have at least one person who has had that training. So that's something we'll have to address in the future. Any other questions about the September training? Director Smith, how many commissioners, I'm not asking you to name names, but how many commissioners have signed up for the training?
I believe that at last count, it was 8 or 9.
Oh, very good. Very
yeah. We a good representative group, and I think you guys are really going to benefit from it.
Appreciate that information.
Sure.
Thank all commissioners who have signed up for that too. Very important.
I think Commissioner Michaels has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's correct. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Fine.
So is this 8 hours of a potentially 40-hour class? Is that sort of how it is? I'm just mostly interested, Director Smith, if I'm going to get a piece of paper with nice, gold and a label to put on my wall.
What does this certify you to do is your ultimate question. It sounds
certification,
And I think that the DOJ is going to be best placed to answer that question. Don't hesitate to ask them that when they at the start of the training. I think the purpose of this, because it's done through their community relations service, the purpose of this is to equip commissions and community groups with the skills to manage community conflict. So I'm hopeful that they'll give you something like some sort of certificate of completion, but it's not the same as the 40-hour course that you get
Right.
from any of the various other trainings throughout the state. And I don't think you'd be able to apply it towards it because mediation is really funny. They have different styles of mediation and they don't necessarily, even though I think some of them are similar, they don't necessarily technically overlap. So if you start training in one place, they'll tell you that unless it's the same style of mediation, you can't mix and match.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm just,
Yeah,
joshing.
yeah.
Oh, brownies are going to be at 6 o'clock at night on Friday after a week. We need candy, brownies, and soda pop. So
There you go.
mhm.
There you go.
Thank you, Director.
You're welcome.
Director Smith, can you come forward with your report from your Office of Equity and Human Rights?
Absolutely, and thank you. So again, good evening. First off, let me say that it's Hispanic Heritage Month. And so happy Hispanic Heritage Month to everyone. Hispanic Heritage Month is one of the few observances that starts in the middle of a month and goes to the middle of the next month. So it's through October 15th. Just for your awareness, the Office of Hispanic, Latino, and Multicultural Affairs is hosting its first ever, well, it's a brand new office. So it's hosting the county's first Hispanic Heritage Awards on October 10th at 5:30. It will be at Arundel live. Registration is required. I think all of you should be getting the county executive's newsletter, the CECS newsletter, Community Engagement and Constituent Services. So the link for registration was in the most recent installment of that newsletter. And if you Google it, you'll find it. But that's really exciting. It's the first one in the county, and I know that they're working really hard on it. So all are welcome. In terms of administrative updates, as I mentioned to you guys, the Office of Equity and Human Rights is finally fully staffed, which I can't tell you what a win that is for me personally. And for us, it's a big win for the county exec's office, and it's a win for the county. We're able to do lots of great things. We've been doing things, but we're able to do them in a much more reasonable manner now. So we have an assistant director, Amber Barnett. We have a civil rights investigator, Mikkel Hicks. And of course, Dr. Smith Key was recently hired. Those were our 3 recent hires. And Chanel and I are here, constant as can be from day one. So we have a good group. We also have, this person joined us last week, Justin Paleska, who is, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Governor's Service Year Program. It's a gap year program for folks either before you go to college or while you're in college, you take a year off and you work. And so we have a service year fellow. Justin Paleska is in our office. He's going to be working with us for 9 months on a number of initiatives. I'm thinking that one of them might be to support the commission with the legislation that you're supporting the 2-party consent legislation. So Justin is very, very interested in legislative affairs. And I think he might be a really good staffer for you guys as you work on that. Another exciting announcement, we've just completed our strategic plan. And so there'll be a rollout of the strategic plan coming soon. Keep your eyes open for that. We are working on some administrative updates to support the Commission's new authority under the Civil Rights Law. As you know, you previously were only authorized to address fair housing complaints in a very formal way. Now you have the authority to address complaints in private employment and in public accommodations. And so there's some administrative architecture that we have to shore up in order to be able to take those complaints meaningfully. We're working on that now, but in the short term, as we're doing that, we'll be providing technical assistance. So we have provided informational letters to respondents. When people call us, we let them know what the law is, what their obligations are under the law, and sort of that we're watching. That is helpful. We've also been taking requests for mediation for some of these cases. We refer those to the the county's conflict resolution office with Georgia Noon Sherrod. So we've been doing that. We're focusing also on outreach regarding the new law. We have a slate of educational programs that we're putting together with ACDS on fair housing. So we have some things that are lined up. We want you to know that we're working on it. And as soon as all of our forms and the other things are together, we'll be talking to you more about formal complaints under your new authority. So those are my little administrative updates. I have some updates from the CE office, from the county exec's office. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Engage Arundel. It is a great website. There's programming there about becoming more engaged as a resident. On September 25th, there'll be a Zoom webinar from 6 to 7 about engaging with county government, how to do it, you know, as an individual, as a community, how do you engage? James Kitchen, Special Assistant to the County Executive, will be facilitating that conversation. There'll be another one on October 16th about Open Arundel and our data collection, the stats that you can find, our dashboards. That's again going to be on October 16th from 12 to 1. So if you haven't been on it, it's aacounty.org/engage Arundel. And it's a great place for residents. Finally, in terms of some of the events we have going on, we do have the training that we just discussed. I want to remind you that we have purchased some items for you guys. So if there are opportunities for you to table and get out into the community, if you want to have a presence, if there are festivals, fairs, community days, whatever it is that you want to participate in, please, you know, talk amongst yourselves about that and let us know so that we can provide you with the materials if you want to be out in public engaging. I know that there's an Odenton day coming up. I'm not sure if you guys are interested in that. We have done some tabling on behalf of the commission. So like at the Pride Parade, we've done it at Juneteenth. We make sure that we put, in addition to our office's materials, we put the commission materials. But if you guys are interested in doing community outreach, please just let us know and we can make those materials available to you. Finally, as a reminder, it's time for the commission to start thinking about the Dallas PACE Awards. You guys award those in January, but there's a process. And so, it's September. It sounds like it's far away, but you'll only have a couple months to determine what you want to do in terms of nominations, selecting, and getting that out. So the Dallas PACE Awards, I'm just bringing that to your awareness so that you can put it on your agenda as a commission for things that you want to think about. We shared the most recent hate bias data. We're continuing to get complaints. We're working on complaints every day. And so that's where we are for now. Any questions?
Okay, hearing none, I thank you for
Yes.
your, sorry.
I know that, Lakeisha, go ahead. I think you were raising your hand. You go first and then I'll go.
Thank you so much, kind sir. Where can we find, do I need to go to the county to find maybe some coming events that may be coming? I know we have some holidays coming up, just to see if there's something already out that we can see if we could be a part of. Is there a list of events coming up? Do I just research that on our county web? What's your take on that?
So I think there are a few different things that you can do. Yes, there
Okay.
are some things that are advertised on the county website. Like if you look up events, you can see things. But a lot of the things we participate in are not county sponsored. The county participates, but they're community sponsored. So within your respective councilmanic districts, if you are representing a councilmanic district, I'm sure that you get things from your local elected officials or, community groups. As you hear about things, you can certainly bring them to the commission's general awareness and make decisions about whether you want to participate in them or not. that would be my recommendation. The county execs, CECS's newsletter is also a place where Vincent Molden and his team are very deliberate about publicizing events that they think will be impactful for folks. So that might be something else that you could look into. Some of this tabling requires that you make a little payment. Some of them come with a fee, like they'll charge you $75 or $100. But if you're a government agency, some of them waive it. So, I think it's just looking around and seeing if there are things that you go to or that are big in your community, it might be worthwhile exploring.
I would like to say, so I will reach out to you because I'm doing something at St. Martin's in the Field on October 13th in the morning. Is October on a Sunday? I don't know. I think it's Saturday, and 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm doing some other volunteer work, but they're giving me, a 4-foot table or something or other. So I might as well include the stuff, and I'll just have it in my car. I'll just start carrying it around in my car because I definitely want to perpetuate that organization. I just put into the chat. This is, so it's sort of weird. It's bordering on what Director Smith just talked about, maybe some new business, but we're doing the second annual Affordable Housing Symposium on October 29th. That is the Tuesday before Election Tuesday. And it was very interesting when we were talking about hate bias and stuff that one of the commissioners mentioned the importance of November 6th. And I am now going to bring that to some of the other work that I'm doing to remind everybody about how the conversation has been so elevated, and very concerned about that. The county officially is not like collaborating, but they are through their ACDS group with affordable housing, and ACDS, which is the Arundel Community Development Service, which handles the housing issues, they're hosting in the afternoon of our symposium a 5-year listening session they are planning, and this is all about affordable housing. So this is going to be quite amazing. And our lead keynote is Secretary Jake Day of Housing, Stuart Pittman, Allison Pickard, Lisa Rodvine, and so many more. And what I can do is maybe send to Director Smith the new program. It just was completed as today, and we also have the National Fair Housing Alliance coming in from Washington, D.C. So I mean, it's really quite amazing. I think we're almost up to 30 panelists, and we're going to be at the Holiday Inn Crowne Plaza because our counts are getting larger. So, and it's still only $30, and that includes lunch and coffee, tea, sodas, and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to put a plug in that because housing is such an important issue. Thank you.
Commissioner Michaels, did you say that was the 29th?
29th of October from, we open the doors at 8, start at 9. And Director Smith actually is participating.
Great. Before we leave Director Smith's report, I wanted to bring up an item that we've worked on the last few years, and that's Unity Day. Director Smith, when do you think we should start the planning this year?
So I think there are probably a couple questions that you should consider. One, did you like the time of year last year? I thought it was pretty good. We participated in the school system's last Unity Day of the year, which I think was in March. So it feels to me like I would say the time to start planning is like next month.
Okay.
I think with all of the logistics, the pieces, is there going to be a speaker? Who's the speaker going to be? Who are going to be the sponsors? I think it takes a while to pull it all together.
I agree. And the other thing is, we need to have the student member on board, and I don't think we have that yet.
No, Tom Nee, who is our new boards and commissions person in the county exec's office, was supposed to be collaborating with Krask to get the name of the new person. He was on leave for a few weeks, and so he's back. He did assure me that he was getting in touch with them, so I'll follow up with him and find out.
Right. That would be pretty important to have the student member on to interact with Krask and the rest of the school system as student members have in the past, and do other things with the commission, but that would be useful. Okay. Thank you, Director Smith.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Hatcher, do you have anything to report from your position as liaison to the Annapolis Human Relations Commission?
Yeah, I do not have anything to report, but I guarantee probably next time I will.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Appreciate that. Appreciate your help and ongoing involvement with that. It's good to have that partnership. We value that partnership and value your interaction with them. It's been very helpful. At this point, I'd like to say that our next commission meeting will be in October, and it's the third Thursday in October, which is October 17th. Thank you. So we will convene again at 6 p.m. on October 17th. Any member of the community would like to attend that meeting should go to the Human Relations Commission section on the county website for meeting information and for more information pursuant to the Maryland Open Meetings Act requirement. That's a message to the general public. At this point in time, I would entertain, since we've gone through our agenda for the evening, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
That's
Commissioner Michaels.
Is there a second?
I second. Commissioner Hatcher.
Commissioner Hatcher is a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed is none opposed, and it's a non-debatable motion. That's why we did not have any debate on that. Let me again thank all the commissioners and our other participants in the meeting, and to anyone who continues to follow us. These meetings are available this evening, but they're also available on YouTube. So you can let any of your friends and associates know. And I would, at this point in time, thank everybody again for your active participation, commissioners and others, and welcome Dr. Nicola Smith-Kia, and thank you all for your participation, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Peterson, for your leadership.
Appreciate that.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Recording stop.